Welcome to the Growth Bridge. I'm Ivo-Castillo, your host here in Miami, and this podcast is for entrepreneurs and leaders with strong ties in Latin America who want to understand how Anglo founders think about growth, marketing, leadership, and decision making, and how to apply their mindset in your own business. Today, I'm excited to have Sarah Vidal. She is the founder of Culture Creative. Hello, Sarah. How are you doing?
Hello, Ivo. I'm well. Thank you for having me here today.
Our first question will be, Sarah, can you share a little bit about your background and what is Culture Creative?
Certainly. So, Cultured Creative is a brand and studio for purpose-driven tourism businesses, and we are based in Florida. However, we work with clients globally. So, I've worked in marketing and brand management and design for the past 14 years now. And I started in brand development in a marketing agency and then later went on to manage brand and design for a global nonprofit that operates in over 60 countries. And I left this behind, decided to leave my corporate work behind. I wanted to focus specifically on tourism businesses because I saw a gap here. So there's a lot of values-driven tourism businesses out there that are doing incredible work. However, they really struggle with visibility and growth. And it's not necessarily because they don't have passion or experience. It's mostly because they don't have the right tools to grow their brand and to communicate their value clearly. So our work is really threefold. We help them articulate what makes them different so that they can stand out in the market. We also help them use storytelling to attract the right customers. And then finally, we develop identity systems from their messaging to their websites. So everything feels consistent, compelling, and also built to convert these customers. So that is our work in a nutshell.
Yes, that's so interesting. Sarah, what led you? What was the trigger that led you start your studio and focusing on branding?
Yeah. So what really triggered it is because, interestingly, as I mentioned, I left corporate, and all of that was because I worked in a nonprofit. I saw a lot of values misalignment in that space of this particular work that I did, and so I no longer wanted to be part of that because Brandon is all about saying something and also doing it, which is what builds trust with customers. And I saw saying stuff but not actually doing it, which made me want to leave the space I was working in. But specifically, what drew me to starting Culture Creative is because I'm a traveler myself. I try to be as sustainable as possible. So I wanted to work in a niche that I was passionate about, but also wanted to help these businesses because, as I mentioned, they're very values driven. They're doing the right things when it comes to developing and shaping the service. However, communicating that service is difficult. So they end up closing their doors because they're not getting customers in and because they're not attracting the right people. And so a lot of times these businesses struggle and then they close their doors. And I'm like, I have this experience and I'm going to channel it into helping them communicate what their brand is about more clearly so that they are bringing profit in as well as retaining that purpose that the brand was built around.
And okay, and so that came this question. How does branding really impact the customer experience beyond just visuals?
So that is a really great question because we all hear the word branding and we think visual, we think logo design, we think all of those elements where yes, that is part of all of it. However, it's not just what it looks like, but how it works and how it feels as well. So branding's all about shaping the expectation before someone even interacts with your business. It's all about making sure that you're positioned in the mind of the customer so that when they think about a problem that they have and they want a solution, they come to you for that problem. So that's the first step, which is the brand strategy, defining your positioning, defining the market that you're working in, the space you're working in, the competitors that you're working that are also in that market space so you know how to differentiate from them. So it's all about shaping that perception. So when we talk about customer experience, we had a client that we worked with and they were all about creating this high quality, exceptionally premium hospitality brand. However, the process to just simply book their service required like 7 steps. And so they were losing customers along the way. And what they said was their brand value wasn't equating to what they were actually delivering when it came to the customer experience. So of course you had drop offs, you had broken trust, you had people abandoning cart. And when we went in to rebrand them, this was one of the core areas we looked at because it's like, why are we having a disconnect between what the brand value is and between what the customer is actually feeling and experiencing? And so we were able to look at their website. We were able to just refine the whole booking process. So it definitely matched more of the experience that they were trying to deliver to the customer. So we ended up seeing a 25% drop in that cart abandonment that they were experiencing earlier. So that's why we say when we say branding, it's more than visuals. It's definitely about the process, about the operations, about the service delivery as well, and making sure that you can deliver what you actually say you can deliver to the customer.
Where do you usually see the gap between what a brand says and what a customer actually experiences?
Yeah, so it's kind of related to the previous point, but I'll just try to touch on a couple more things here. So the disconnect is a lot of brands are very aspirational. So it means that they want to do specific things and they want to deliver certain things to the customers, but the operations don't always follow through with that. They're not necessarily putting in place all the operations to deliver exactly what they say they're delivering. So like the example I gave, positioning yourself as a premium personalized brand, but then the actual experience feels very transactional. It feels very cumbersome and just difficult for the customer to process. That is already going against what you say versus what you do. So another example I would give here is that we worked with a travel agency and they position themselves as a sustainable travel brand, but their offerings were very similar to what every other travel agency was doing, right? So it's like, what actually makes you sustainable? Why should customers choose you if that is your main difference, right, from the rest of the market? So what we did was that we restructured all of their offers so that they were getting their working more with local suppliers and also creating these experiences that actually reflect community initiative, local initiatives, and just making sure that that came through at every touch point. So it wasn't that they were just saying one thing, but not necessarily doing it or showing it in what the customer felt and experienced. So that's definitely a huge deal here. So I would say the whole customer loyalty comes when there is that alignment. You meet a real need for them, but you also deliver on that promise and you ensure that your communication reflects the actual service that you say it does.
Yes, and definitely what hearing from you, actually you intervene in kind of in the operational side.
Exactly. Which is the difference between what we understand what branding is versus what it is. Actually, it's like it is definitely very much not just the marketing facet, it's an operational one as well because you're making sure the offers match everything that you're seeing as far as communication.
Do a rebranding actually, because that's what I love what you do. You actually do a branding, but you are intervene in a business that's just already established. So most of the time you say what your branding saying right now is not what should be or what should communicate. So you start like a new process and intervene in that process. What industry do you see is more difficult to implement for the customer to really see the brand as it is?
Okay, so first of all, I would say we work mostly, almost exclusively with tourism businesses. So that's where our core focus is. However, I would also say that in past experiences working with other industries, it's not necessarily that it's most difficult to implement. It's mostly that business owners just need to take a step back and make sure that the operations is there before the communication starts. So it's not about necessarily the difficulty because you can implement exactly what you say in your branding all through your operations. So it's just taking a step back, making sure that your operations are aligned, making sure that you have that foundational element, and then communicating it. So you're not caught in this weird situation where you start messaging something or you start communicating something and then you have to backtrack to fix problems that you don't have. So just to put it in a simple way, it's not difficult for any one specific industry. but it is about doing things in the right order, starting with clarification, starting with understanding what you're actually delivering to the customer before you communicate anything. So, yes, I would say for me, it's not so much about pitching because clients come to me and they know that they have a problem when they come to me. So, most of the clients that come because they feel like something is off. So, usually they have like one of two problems. They may be attracting the right they may be attracting customers, but they're not the right fit customers. So they can't afford them. They don't understand what values they're putting for it. So it doesn't feel like it's beneficial to them. So obviously they're not converting as many clients as they could be. And then they have people just basically competing on price consistently. So that is usually the problem people come to me with. They already know that they have this problem and they're doing marketing, right? They're out there, they're marketing their services, but it's just not working. So it's like something is off here, something is not clicking, something is not resonating. And so we now take a step back to understand, okay, you have the channels, you have the platforms, what is wrong? And we don't start with going into the marketing channels and doing more marketing because obviously that would be the definition of insanity. So we have to stop and fully understand their audience, their market, and what their communication is right now as to why it's not converting clients, right? So we do the market research, we understand who their ideal customers are, first of all. Then we ask them, we uncover what they stand for as a brand, and then what experience they're promising to customers, and then how does this experience actually solve a real problem for the customer as well. So by the time we do all of that, we move into that market research and we're speaking directly with the customers as well, with their audience to understand the problems that they have, so that when we start communicating as a brand, we are speaking to those specific problems. So once that foundation is clear, marketing becomes so much simpler because they now know, okay, this is where our audience is. This is what we can say to them. This is a message that filters in the right people and removes the wrong people, the wrong fit customers. And so, yeah, it just basically helps to retrace the steps and set the right foundation. And I would give an example here as well, just to make it crystal clear. So one of our clients, also another hospitality business here in Florida, was just attracting super, super price sensitive customers. However, they were supposed to be positioned as more for luxury interior designers, working with luxury interior designers. However, they were trying to speak to everybody on their on their site. They were trying to just reach out to everyone by communicating very, very broadly. So they're not positioned for those luxury clients that you're trying to attract. So our work here was to go back in and to make sure that, okay, we understood the customers that they were trying to reach out to. We talked to them and we saw these are the problems that they need solved. And so we were able to speak to all of those specific problems through all of their marketing touch points, whether it was their website, whether it was their marketing brochures. And therefore, we were able to bring in those high value clients with the same marketing budget, right? So it applies to whatever business or industry, doesn't really matter what it is, if you're a service-based industry, because you want to just understand who you're working with. So answering that question, I'm not necessarily doing a hard pitch to people. I'm more so, they're more so coming to me because they know that they have a problem and it's not necessarily a marketing problem. It's that we need to fix something in our core foundation before we move forward here.
And that made me curious. How do you currently getting most of your client? Is by referral or you do any other specific actions or tactic?
Yeah. So it definitely feeds into what I just the answer I just gave previously, which is understanding your customers, right? So my customer base, I took a time to do my own research to understand, okay, where are my customers hanging out, where are they spending their time? So obviously I do B2B, I support businesses. And so from that research that I did, most of my customers are spending their time on LinkedIn. And because of that, that is where I focus most of my attention to market on LinkedIn. So it's definitely very organic marketing on LinkedIn, just creating the content that speaks to them and resonates with them. And that is how most of them are finding me. through the content that we generate on our LinkedIn page. And obviously, Culture Creative is a very, very founder-led brand, so I am the face of the brand, and
Yes.
so I do a lot of that marketing and just bringing in clients through that platform. And obviously, we also have the referrals and the repeat clients as part of our customer base, of course. But I would say the marketing channel is primarily LinkedIn because that is where our audience spends most of their time.
And can you tell us a little about your process? So do you have for working with a team? How you manage that? How is your operation kind of works?
Yeah, so typically, because our work is focused on brand development, so when our customers come to us with that issue of, okay, what is the issue here? What's the problem with them? With our brand, we do a full audit to understand here is the challenges that you're experiencing right now. Here's where you're losing customers. Here's where you're not attracting guests, or we basically just find all of the gaps in their brand. And then from doing that audit, we can move forward into giving the recommendations as far as these are the things that we need to change. These are the things that we need to improve on. For some of the businesses we work with, we don't necessarily need to redo all of their messaging or their comms or their operations or their offers. Sometimes it's already fine. However, we go on something like a very relevant touch point like their website, and we see it's just small changes that they really need to make to really start converting customers. So maybe things like changing their CTAs or changing their hero message. So that's just the first line of messaging that people see when they land on your website. So it reduces that bounce rate. We go in there and we fixed all of those issues so that we can start measuring and tracking, okay, what is exactly the problem here? And if we fix this problem, what solution or what changes do we see overall as we move forward? So, yeah, that's basically the heart of how we work with our customers, but it's also a very collaborative process. So we don't just take in customers and be like, okay, we'll solve all the problem and then leave you on the side wondering what's going on. We carry them along, making sure we're doing, if we have to do the workshop to refine their brand foundation, we're doing it together because the business owner always understands their business more than anyone else. So
Yeah.
they are definitely giving that input of what they're seeing with their own customers, what they're seeing as far as their own challenges. And we take it all into account before we start developing any sort of communications or refining their offers or just basically changing anything within the brand system. So that's really how we work. And I think I've touched on most of the core points there.
And this is a business question to you as a businesswoman. If the demand doubled tomorrow, what will break first in your business?
That is an interesting question. Obviously, it's in this case because we're definitely still very intimate studios, intimate in the sense of it's a smaller team. So I would
Okay.
say, yeah, for sure, it's just the size of the team and having enough people to do the work is the big one. So if we were suddenly to get 2 times clients than we suddenly have, it would be having enough people on the team to do the work, hiring more, obviously hiring the right people, because that's another huge aspect of all of this. Not just hiring people, but hiring the right people that can do the work as well. But honestly, we I built everything in a way where it's not we know how many clients we can take in per month, and we put a solid cap on that. So
Mhm.
it's not going to be a surprise because we don't build for quantity per se, but quality. And so because of that, we have like a very hard cap. This is who we can work with. This is how many people we can work with. And so from there on, it helps us manage from month to month what exactly we're doing and what kind of projects that we're taking on. So I'm just saying the possibility for that happening are slim. However, if it does happen, then it would be more so the having enough hands to do the work that would be the bigger issue.
Yes. I want to know about the AI and what is your thinking about it? How, if you implement it or you incorporate any AI technology in your daily basis?
Yeah, so AI is the hot topic for for most businesses right now. And yeah, we do use AI in our work. However, I would say AI is very good at certain things, automating processes. You can just go in there, you can automate certain messages that repeat tasks that you're doing. However, the challenge is using AI to develop a brand personality, which is our work, of course. Using AI, we see a lot of clients that come in with stuff that was already AI generated. So when I say developing your brand, it's more so, okay, what is our core? What's our mission, our vision? What are our core values? But also what's our voice? How do we sound when we talk to customers? How do we communicate on our website when we talk to customers and our marketing materials on social media? And we see a lot of clients just jumping into AI and using it to write all of their messaging and all of their copy. And it can seem like it's super, super efficient. But the problem is, what is AI doing? It's when you look at it fundamentally, it's scrapping information from every different site that it can pull information from. So you have this challenge of you are going to sound like everyone else if you use AI to develop your core messaging and your copy, and you're using it to write all of the information on your website. That is going to be challenging because you start to blend in and sound like everyone, which is kind of what we're seeing on social media too right now. Everyone's marketing is kind of sounding the same because it is AI generated. So as a studio, we do use it in the sense that we analyze the content that we've created, or we analyze the messaging that we've created. We see, does it match the brand voice that we have developed for the client? And does it match the emotions that we're trying to put out for this specific client? And we're using it more as an analysis and research tool.
Hmm.
Research is definitely a very big one because we do a lot of market research. So AI is super quick with pulling information from different sources, but then you have to cross check the sources. You have to verify that they are actually accurate and not just a fiction that it has generated from somewhere else. So it has reduced our workflow in the research side of things because we were able to speed up that process. It also reduced our workflow in the analysis side of things because we can know that, okay, whatever brand voice and message we've developed is being applied across the brand consistently. Those are the two major ways that we use it. And also, those are the ways that we encourage our clients to use it because obviously, once you have done the work of developing the brand communications, you can pass it on to the client and develop a model for them that they can always go to and be like, does this match my brand voice? Does this match my, basically an AI agent that is making sure that they're staying on brand. So it helps in that way, but the person, the client has to be still actively involved and not reliant on AI to do all of the heavy lifting, especially when it comes to messaging of any sort.
Yes, completely right. For small businesses, what is one simple thing that they can change to improve conversions?
Yeah, and it really depends on the business itself. But first, I would say look at one touch point in the customer journey if you're trying to improve conversion. So instead of trying to fix everything at once, try to look at one touch point, right? So if it's your inquiry or your booking process, go through that process very intently, or even have someone else go through that process. And then when you do that, you can see where is the biggest friction right now. Like I mentioned with that customer that we worked in the hospitality industry, they had 7 steps in their booking process, right? So if you have someone go through that process and they can tell you, oh, wow, this is very, very extended. This is very long and it's really causing me to drop off at this point, or I don't want to go through with the process because it's too difficult, then you know that that is a bottleneck that you need to fix. And that is an issue that you're having right now. So it really depends on you and your business and what problem you're going through, but I would say definitely take it step by step in the whole customer journey and see, okay, what is the problem in this single process, whether it's the inquiry stage, whether it's the booking stage, whether it's even the retention stage. So if a customer has gone through the process, but they're not coming back, they're not referring others to you, or they're not coming back as a customer, then something is happening in that retention stage. So do you need to be sending out more nurturing emails to help them remember that you exist? Do you need to give them some kind of special loyalty perk so that they come back to you? Because the whole goal of branding is not just attracting the right customers, it's also retaining the right customers and making sure that you are building on that referral as well. So conversion wise, I would say definitely look at each single stage in the customer journey, and then you can start to optimize for solutions and conversions within each of those steps.
And our last question, Sarah, what is your mindset?
What is my mindset?
What is your mantra? What is the thing that keep you waking up every single day with that passion and go to your business and do what you do?
I would say my mindset is more about intentionality. So I'm centered around intentionality. And I know that in entrepreneurship and owning a business, there's a lot of pressure to just scale faster, be everywhere, do everything. But not every business is meant to be like $1 billion business. And I feel like it's so important to understand what your goal is. My goal in this case, so that I can avoid all of the noise that pulls people away from doing something meaningful. So my purpose here is to build something that's meaningful and works for me and my clients, and not necessarily about being this $1 billion business, because that's not ultimately what I'm pushing for. So I want to understand, okay, what am I building here? Who do I want to work with? What kind of impact do we want to have in this landscape for me? Understanding the impact, especially in tourism, because like I said, I work in sustainable tourism, right? So understanding how we can continue to move this industry forward, because tourism is not an easy industry when it comes to sustainability and having that mindset. So how can we continue to influence travelers to make better decisions as they travel? And we do that through messaging, we do that through marketing. So I see my role as part of shaping all of that impact that we can really have on customers. And just knowing that not every customer or not every client for me is going to be the right fit. So learning to say no to certain clients and learning to move forward with the right ones just to avoid any sort of poor experiences along the way is definitely super important, and just having that clarity in decision making. So I would say that's kind of my mindset and how I approach things, knowing that I want to be led by intention as opposed to just profit, 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 and regardless of how I'm making that profit.
Well, thank you so much, Sarah. That was really interesting conversation.
Thank you, Ivo. It was a pleasure chatting with you as well.
Thank you, everybody. See you next time. Bye. Thank you.